Welcome into the Who's On Postgame Report. The Cardiac Cavs just keep on rolling. 7 straight wins, and for the first time since 1990, Virginia starts the season 8-1 after they win 31-21 on the road out in Cal. How about this one for a stat? First ever win in the Pacific time zone. Virginia getting the win out there at UCal Berkeley. Crazy one. They just couldn't make it easy. It looked like for a little bit in the first half, maybe Virginia could get a comfortable win today, but I mean, we knew the way this was going to go. Nothing easy for these Cavaliers right now. They do, though, get their first double-digit victory in ACC play on the road for the first time since 2019 when they won at Pitt. So they did get the 10-point win eventually. It just took a little bit of heroics from who else but Cam Robinson yet again. And let me just tell you, we'll start right from there. Cam Robinson putting together really quite the resume this season. He's got now this game-sealing pick 6 against Cal here on the road. He's got the walk-off safety against Wazoo. I know it's not technically a walk-off, but pretty much a walk-off safety against Wazoo at home. He's also got the pick 6 on the road at Louisville. And people forget this guy missed the first couple games of the season. And I know a lot of people won't forget because, maybe if he's in there against NC State, it's the biggest what if for Virginia this year. Maybe if he's in there against NC State, we're looking at an undefeated Virginia team right now. But hey, take the 8-1, enjoy the 8-1, love the 8-1 because Virginia is doing something they haven't done in 35 years, especially now after that 31-21 win on the road at Cal. Here we are for the Who's On post-game report. Let's break down a little bit of this game. A lot to talk about in this one. My notes go on for pages and pages. I think, I messed up at some point, but really, really good game from Virginia here. And I know, in the end, it was a lot tighter than people probably wanted towards the end, but I thought there's a lot of promising signs on the day. And we'll start with the offense because that was the biggest question mark coming into the day for Virginia. Was this offense going to finally find some of the mojo, you could say, that they had early in the year? Tony Elliott said all week, they know that offense that was there, in those first 5 games of the season, it's still in this team. And I don't know if we necessarily saw that offense that we saw early on in the season that was ranked, at one point in the top 5 in the country. But we definitely saw a much improved offense in this one. 456 total yards of offense. That is the most yards that they have had in a game since, I believe, the Stanford game when they put up 590 yards of total offense. It's more than the Florida State game, more than the Coastal Carolina game. So this is actually their 4th best offensive yardage output of the season, well outpacing, the last 3 games against Louisville, North Carolina, and Washington State, where they barely got over 301 yards against Washington State. And so a much improved offensive effort. And I think that was pretty clear from the get-go, honestly. You look at Chandler Morris and kind of the groove that this offense was on that first drive. He was making some really impressive throws, I felt like, throughout the game. Some big throws on 3rd down especially. And they ran the football. They got away from it a little bit in the second half. But they ran the football in the first half, and they ran pretty well. By the second drive, they had already used their 3 running backs that are healthy. Obviously, Xavier Brown out for the season now, but Jamari Taylor, Harrison Whaley, Noah Vaughn all got early touches in this one. Huge day for Jamari Taylor. We'll start there with the offense. 21 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards per carry. It was only his second 100-yard rushing game of the season, which is crazy to think because he had such a great start to the season. The other one obviously came in a loss at NC State earlier in the season when he had 150 yards rushing. It was his first multi-touchdown game since NC State. Obviously, he got off to a really good start to start the season with back-to-back multi-touchdown games, but this was his first one today with 2 touchdowns for this Virginia offense, and really it provided some of the typical Jamari Taylor stuff that we've got used to, some hard-nosed running in some tight situations. 2 touchdowns. He's now up to 11 touchdowns on the season. He's the first UVA player to go over 10 plus touchdowns on the ground since both Bryce Perkins and Wayne Talapapa did it back in that 2019 season. Talapapa had 12 touchdowns that season. Um, Obviously, Jamar Taylor, he's now up to 11. The last player to have more than 12 touchdowns on the ground in a season was Keith Payne. That one's a little bit further back. I think he had 18, something around there. He had a lot of touchdowns that season, maybe 16. But a really good output on the ground for Jamari Taylor. Some really hard nosed running. We saw the direct snap, not in overtime for a game winning touchdown. Passing wise, Chandler Morris, 24 36, 362 yards, 67% completion percentage. I think he just overall had a pretty solid day. He looked good in the pocket. He looked comfortable in the pocket. One of the things I said early in the week on the reaction after the UNC game is it looked like he was kind of rushing and he wasn't comfortable with himself and kind of the decisions and kind of the time that he had in the pocket. So he's rushing a lot of things. He took unnecessary sacks at times, wouldn't throw it to the check down receivers. He did that a lot in this game at Cal. So I think overall it was a great game for Chandler Morris. I know in the end he doesn't come up with any touchdowns, but there's some people throughout the week that were saying maybe it's time that we just turn this over to Daniel Kalen. And no offense to Daniel Kalen. I mean, he's a talented young quarterback, but I mean, Chandler Morris is a veteran out there, a 6-year veteran in college football that made some veteran-like plays out there for Virginia today, in some key situations. There was a little bit of debate. Who was I going to put for the fourth option in the who's on player of the game poll? That's over on my Twitter page, by the way. You can go vote for that. Obviously, I think the obvious ones were Cam Robinson. I put Jamari Taylor, those two obvious at first. And then the other ones like Corey Costner, Chandler Morris, and Eli Wood, who had a great game in this one too. But Morris was just Mr. Consistent, reliable when they needed him, made some really big plays for this team and made some big plays with his legs too. All the people that were saying, oh, I don't think Morris should start this week because he's just too injured. I mean, the guy showed a willingness to run the football today, even when the play wasn't called for him to run the football. Into the game with 6 carries for 38 yards, had an 18-yard quarterback draw there in the first half that set them up in field goal range. I know Will Bretridge ended up missing the 48-yard field goal, which would have been his career high, but made some really gutsy plays. He slid today, slid a couple times in this one, so that was big for him. But overall, really solid day for Chandler Morris and kind of looked more like the quarterback that we saw earlier in the season in those first 5 games. Some of the throws that this guy was making, the one early in the game, the 38-yard completion to Eli Wood, that was a dime. That was a straight up dime to Eli Wood early in the game. Huge play for Chandler Morris and really impressive day for him. I thought the receivers overall were pretty solid. No big drops. I feel like Trell Harris, 5 catches, 68 yards. Cam Ross, really nice to see that guy back. He had a couple big plays on third downs. He had 5 catches for 59 yards. Mentioned him earlier, Eli Wood, former walk-on. Coaches like to call him, the glue of the wide receiver room. He had 2 catches for 46 yards in this one. He also had his first career rushing touchdown, which is kind of like a little lateral back pass to Eli Wood. He was kind of running a bubble screen that counts as a run because he caught it behind where Chandler Morris threw it. So a nice 3-yard touchdown there when Virginia really needed it. They needed some kind of answer to Cal in this one, and they provided it there. So a huge play there, especially after that Cal trick play touchdown that the tight end threw. But overall, I think the offense was much improved. Was it the total package that I think Virginia fans wanted to see? No. They did have some missed opportunities throughout this one, but I think overall it was a really solid day for this offense. You can look at it, a pretty balanced effort, 262 yards to the air, 194 yards in the ground. They got, they were 10 for 19 on third downs. I know they didn't get one third down, which, let's go ahead and talk about that one. Late in the game, it was third down and I think 3. Virginia decides to run the ball. They only pick up 1 yard. So then you got a really interesting fourth down decision for Tony Elliott. The game, they're under 2 minutes. Cal doesn't have any timeouts left, but it's 4th and 2. You get a first down here, and that's ball game. Virginia wins the game. It's 24-21, so it's a 3-point game. If you kick the field goal, you're only up by 6. And honestly, the decision making is pretty simple here, and this is why the analytics said they should go for it, is because if you get the 3 points, well, Cal still wins on a touchdown. If you don't get the 3 points, Cal still wins it on a touchdown. Really, at that point, you're defending against. I think Cal's probably going just for a field goal at that point, just to tie the game up and send it into overtime. Of course, another overtime for Virginia. But I totally agree with the call there from Tony Elliott to go for it on 4th and 2. That was the absolute correct call, because you lose on a touchdown either way. So either you do it trying to seal the game by going for it on 4th and 2, or you do it by kind of retreating and, kicking the field goal, going up by 6 points. So I think it was absolutely the correct call there for Tony Elliott. It ends up working out for him. They don't get the 4th and 2. That comes up short. I think the pass incomplete there. But then first play coming back the other way, Cam Robinson with the game-sealing pick 6. How many times can this Virginia team just call on Cam Robinson to make the biggest play in the biggest moment for this team on the season? I mentioned earlier, he missed the first 3 games of the season. He still leads Virginia in tackles on the season, despite having missed the first 3 games of the season. That's crazy enough on its own. But today, huge game from him. He only gets credit for a half sack, but really that sack was created by him perfectly timing the blitz to come after Sagapatola. Had the interception, the pick 6. That was obviously the big one where he totally read the pass play all the way, kind of baited him into it, came up with a huge pick 6 there, returned it all the way back. Some people will point out, well, honestly, you could have just, gone down and that was the ball game right there. But I think Virginia needed a moment like that. They needed a win like this where the scoreline at least shows 31-21. You win by double digits in a game that, it kind of, it was a close game throughout the second half almost. But it kind of gave them that little breathing room at the end so they can actually enjoy the end of this, the final seconds of this one. Huge play there by Cam Robinson. And at this point, I don't think enough people, around the ACC, maybe around the country, are talking about Cam Robinson and the way that this guy plays the game. He is a difference maker at linebacker. He is a playmaker on defense. And if this guy's not, I want to say first team all ACC, but if he's not up there among the best linebackers in the ACC, I don't know what games you're watching. This guy, the reason Virginia is 8-1 right now is because Cam Robinson had a pick 6 against Cal. He won the game against Wazoo on a safety. He had a pick 6 against Louisville that was huge for that team in a game where their offense couldn't get going. He had many plays against Florida State where he had some big plays, had a sack. The guy just makes big plays after big play. Just doesn't matter what the situation is. Cam Robinson was massive. The defense overall, I thought, was pretty solid. Only 8 yards rushing for Cal, who had started to actually see a little uptick in their rushing production this one. So it was good to see Virginia kind of hold the fort down there. They did get some pressure in the backfield. That was a big thing that, you got this freshman quarterback for Cal, Sagapatoli. You got to get some pressure in his face. And they were able to do that a couple times. Mitchell Melton only gets a half sack in this one, but honestly, the guy was there a few times, had his hands on him. Probably should have made had a couple more times in this one, but got some pressure in his face, and in the end, didn't let him beat you. He didn't have a touchdown in this one, threw 2 interceptions. Speaking of interceptions, let's talk about the Corey Costner one. The freshman has made massive plays in back-to-back weeks now. Obviously, last week against UNC, he helped force that fumble that UNC lost out of the end zone, which was a touchback for Virginia. Massive play there for Corey Costner. Also had a huge special teams tackle in that game. This game today, he wasn't even looking at the ball. You watched the replay. Wasn't even looking at the ball, but just did his best in a one-on-one situation there for a freshman. Not fully a corner, not fully a safety, kind of that in between. He plays the spur position as kind of the backup for Jason Pavard. Made a huge play there with the interception to win that ball one-on-one, take it away. Just a huge play for Corey Costner. That's why he gets into the player, the player of the game poll. The freshman there, and he's been one of the few freshmen that actually played this year for Virginia. He's such a veteran-laden team that I think it's Corey Costner, Dylan Newton-Short, Isaiah Robinson got some play time today. Not a ton of freshmen getting in the game right now because this is a really rock-solid veteran-laden team right now. Last thing we'll talk about outside of the defense and offense, everything is the special teams today has been one of the most consistent units for Virginia all throughout the season. Really, not a lot of times that you could look back and say, "Oh, they made a mistake here." Well, they had a couple mistakes here on the day. You look at a missed field goal, obviously from Will Bettridge there at the end of the first half, kind of pushed that one wide left. It had the distance; it totally pulled that one wide left. So that was the first one. They also had Daniel Sparks fake field goal attempt there, where it looks like maybe he gets a first down at the time. I mean, maybe if you're Tony Elliott, you're like, well, we're pushing them back here. We've got a good lead. Like, let's go for the jugular here and get this first down. Sparks comes up, a yard short. I reminded everyone on social media, the guy was on the freaks list from the Athletic at the beginning of the season. He's a good athlete. He has some wheels and he can run. Didn't work out for them on that one. Then later, they give up a big punt return to Cal, who then gets the trick play touchdown to make that a 3-point game at that point. And then they have the Daniel Sparks 14-yard punt that he shanks out of bounds, which Cal was obviously able to capitalize on, get another touchdown, and make this a really close game, 24-21 there towards the end. So not a great day for the special teams unit. It's been a good unit overall in the season. I know Bettridge has missed a few kicks here and there, but Cam Ross had a good return this year that they weren't able to capitalize on. That's what maybe people forget is, Cam Ross returned the ball 26 yards. They had the ball in the Cal 23-yard line, and they end up getting 0 points out of it. That was the Daniel Sparks fake field goal run. So some missed opportunities for this offense today, and that's kind of where it's not quite fully back to where it needs to be. They had missed opportunities. There were times where they should have scored. They should have gotten further. They should have had a bigger drive here. They should have run more clock here. Some of the clock management towards the end. But in the end, it was enough offensively, and it was a big improvement overall. So Virginia now 8-1 on the season. First time since 1990 that Virginia is 8-1 to start the season. Just an absolutely great start for this team. The Cardiac Calves alive and well. So Virginia now, they are 5-0 in ACC play. Georgia Tech still playing as we're recording this. They're playing NC State. So we'll see what happens that one. There's a group of teams right behind Virginia and Georgia Tech who are 5-0 in the ACC. In Pitt, Louisville, SMU, and Duke, who all have one loss in conference play right now. So those are kind of the contenders right behind them. Miami, for all intents and purposes, might be out of this. I know statistically maybe there's some kind of chance that they have there. They're 2-2 right now in ACC play, but after losing to SMU, the Hurricanes are out of it, and that might be their college football playoff chances right there. After having 2 losses in ACC play. So Virginia and Georgia Tech, look, they control their destiny from here on out. I know ESPN put up there during the broadcast a 73% chance for Virginia now with the win that they will go to the ACC championship game. Pretty good odds, but of course, you got 3 really tough games left to go. Home against Wake Forest, which, side note, unfortunately, that's going to be a 7:00 game next week, but unfortunately it will not be the College Game Day game. And I know some people kind of push back on that when I first put that out there as an idea last week. Like, it was under consideration. I heard from people that it was definitely at least under consideration. Now, the Texas Tech BYU game, that is an undefeated team against a 7-1 team or 8-1 team now. Next week in Lubbock, huge game for the Big 12 standings. So really they were just waiting to see if Texas Tech would beat Kansas State. A little close game there for a little bit, but Texas Tech eventually pulled away and beat Kansas State. So College Game Day will be going to Lubbock, Texas. Virginia still waiting to finally host College Game Day for football. It has never happened. And you thought maybe College Game Day would like the story We'll see what happens. Virginia has one home game left after this. That's usually a really tough week to get college game day. That's rivalry week for everyone across college football. There's always big games going on that week. So I would say this was probably the best chance that Virginia had this year. So unfortunate that the Cavaliers aren't going to see college game day this year, but I think they'll take the win and moving to 8-1 instead. Yeah, so home against Wake Forest, a really improved team. They're also playing right now against Florida State, who Florida State looks like they're up. As they go into halftime again. I'm going to stop with the scores because this podcast will be irrelevant with those scores by the time it comes out and everyone listens to it. But so Wake Forest, then at Duke, and then home against Virginia Tech. Still some really tough games out there for this Virginia team, but 8-1 right now to start the season for the first time since 1990. Can't say it enough. First time in 35 years. Great start for the Cardiac Cavs as they keep on rolling. That's going to do it for the Who's On Postgame Report. Virginia winners 31-21. The number 15 team stays alive. Hopefully moves up a little bit more in the AP Top 25 coming out. I think college football playoff coming out as soon as well this week. So, could be an interesting end to the season for this Virginia team. It's one where basketball starts on Monday, but I don't think anyone's ready to move on and talk about basketball too much yet. Like it's still a fun season to cover, and that's why I keep telling people enjoy it. This hasn't happened in 35 years for Virginia, so enjoy this season. That'll do it for the Who's On Postgame Report. We will have our podcast up on Monday, recapping all of this game and looking at UVA football a little bit more. We'll also have a Who's On Postgame Report after Virginia men's basketball's season opener of the Ryan Odom era there on Monday night against Rider. We'll have a lot more coming up in the weeks ahead. Fun week, crazy week, but that'll do it for the Who's On Postgame Report.